The scripts that I have written and the novels and stories that I've written tend to be science fiction. They tend to be action-oriented. After my first several, they were much more character-driven than plot-driven. And my preference is always to have strong female leads, or at least strong female characters. So you throw all of that, along with the fact that I have a strong computer science background in a variety of disciplines, especially artificial intelligence, that I know not only the software but also hardware. I built computers from scratch and things like that. Back in the early 80s, when building a computer from scratch was not a plug in the pieces, it was more of a you have to design it, you have to burn it, you have to give it a crack. And you meld that with my writing background, and this is playtime. I'm getting to play in the world of AI, of cybernetics, and of characters and writing and strong women, or females, even if they aren't really women per se. And this has been a lot of fun. You know, like I say, the last episode was really easy to write. The episode before it was a technical episode from my point of view because I had to put the pieces together. This next episode, again, is going to be a little bit technical. It's not so much setup, I'm paying off, but I have to hit the beats. And that happens. The episodes that are the easiest for me to write, truthfully, are the action episodes. Because I can picture all of the action in my head, and it's like doing a book report or a report on a movie. I'm just describing what I see in my head. I don't have to work that hard at it. Other than the fact that it tires me terribly because I'm having a battle in my head for days on end. Excuse me, I have to blow my nose. Sorry. Okay. One thing you may have noticed in episode 10 was that I had a lot more stage direction in the script than I usually do. I try to avoid directing on the page because it is a no-no. For all you budding screenwriters out there, do not use episode 10 as a template. I wrote it in a way that it was the clearest way to describe how it was filmed, and I had a very specific way of how I wanted some things filmed. If you're writing a spec script, you do not do that, because you'll get blasted by your agent, by story editors, by producers, that you're directing on the page. Leave the directing to the director. I think, and this is my own personal point of view because I had to deal with this for a lot of years, is that it needlessly marginalizes what the writers do. The script is supposed to be a blueprint for a movie or TV show. I've described before that I put more description for the characters than you're usually allowed because I think you need to help the actors instead of having to be on set or relying on a director who may be only on it for one episode and not understand the series. By the same token, it's very bad form for a writer to tell a director where to fade out, where to dissolve, where to do this, where to do that. And I try to avoid it unless it's really necessary. For this specific episode, I thought it was necessary for certain scenes that they needed to have the mood set. And for me as the writer to take charge and say, this is how it should be told. I'm the storyteller. In this instance, I'm the storyteller and you are just the person who is doing the grunt work. I mean, a lot of the times the writer is treated as the person who just put all that black stuff on the page. Actors often comment how they just highlight their lines of dialogue. They don't even pay attention to the action. Directors will say how, they ignore every stage direction that writers write in. Meanwhile, writers are expected to listen to all the suggestions from the studio, from the directors, from the actors, everybody else. You have TV shows where actors are improvising like crazy because they believe they can write better than the writers. Sometimes they can. More often than not, you can see that the actor was trying to improvise. But some know their characters so well that you would want them to. But again, it marginalizes the writer. And me being a writer, I take a little exception to that. Not a lot. I mean, if they pay me, I'll perfectly willing to be treated like dirt like every other writer is. And I know that's not politically correct for me to say, but it's true. If you remember Altman's movie The Player, where they had a movie where the studio exec was saying, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could do a movie without having any writers involved? And based upon how writers are treated in reality in Hollywood, that's really not far from the truth. Writers are considered a necessary nuisance that are best to be gotten rid of as soon as possible, because everybody else has a better idea. Just look at the notes writers get. It's interesting, some of the ideas and how stories evolve. More to the point, how they blow apart. It explains a lot of the scripts that you see nowadays. Let me give you a general rule of thumb. If you see more than 3 names in the writer's credits, run. Do not walk to the nearest exit. Run. Just kidding. Okay. So like I said, don't write it like I wrote it the last episode. As cautionary as I try to be on all the previous episodes that I've written, telling you to write it a little plainer than I do and a little less folksy, really don't do it like I did the last episode. The series of scenes, the directing on the page, all of that, that was kind of a one-time deal. I'm more likely to do it in a really emotional scene or a shock scene. I mean, I'm not saying that you can't ever do direction on the page. You can't ever do pans, or you can't ever do cut tos or things like that. But you need to keep it to you only use it when it actually has to be done. That way, if the director is going to pay attention to it at all, they'll pay attention to it then, because clearly you aren't just doing it to wield your power. It's one of those things that people who have done something for a while tell the beginners, is that you have to learn all of the rules before you can break them. And when you break them, you have to know what rules you are breaking and why. And that's what I did on this one. I very specifically broke the rules. Should be better the next time. Okay,